Now, what is a Survivor superfan like me who has grown up with the show's Survivor think of the Survivor New Era? Today, we're going to be ranking via tier list the Survivor New Era seasons. The good, the bad, the ugly. Let's get into it. Here we are with our tier list rankings.
I'll be talking about what made the biggest impressions on me rather than everything that happened in the new era. I also want to mention that I've loved Survivor for a really long time, and I don't mean any disrespect to the production. Have always wanted to be cast. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to stick to my guns as a super fan and be honest. I'm going to go in order, starting with Survivor 41. Survivor 41 was the first season after Winners at War, after the pandemic, after the year break that happened since the beginning of the show. So for that reason, it was a little bit of a novelty. We hadn't seen Survivor in a year. We were all clamoring for it. We were waiting for it. So we were all very excited to see it. Now, one really great thing about 41 is the 50% BIPOC requirement for casting, which added more diversity and more life experiences into Survivor.
Unfortunately, things just seemed to get out of hand, in my opinion. Everything from Jeff trying to make statements to seem relevant culturally that just didn't really land very authentically, all the way to adding in twists that just really make no sense. Based off of what? Mike White saying, hey, Jeff, don't use fire tokens. Think about what makes Survivor fun. Fundamentally, I think they failed at that. And bringing in the hourglass twist has got to be the worst Survivor twist of all time, because the branding was, you have to earn everything, to try to make 26 days seem tough, right? But the hourglass twist basically says, hey, you can take this team who won immunity at the merge not merge, the second worst Survivor twist, mergatory, and yeah, you can just take it away from them. You know, you can give yourself immunity, or you cannot take away something from someone else. Gee, I wonder what you would do. So for these reasons and more, Survivor 41 is definitely a D. Survivor 42, very similar. Very similar DNA to Survivor 41. The beware advantages. You have to say these interesting phrases before you can get an idol, otherwise your votes are lost. So 42, I feel like, sort of delivered on this idea of the shot in the dark a little bit. You know, no one saved their votes, really. No one used it as an idol fully, but people were starting to use the shot in the dark, which was introduced in 41 as well. 42, I think, has one of the best episodes of Survivor ever. And that comes with the first result of losing the vote for Daniel and Chanel arguing at tribal council. Are they going to go to rocks, right? Is Hai going to go to rocks with Daniel? Daniel folds. Oh my gosh. And then in the same episode, Jonathan single-handedly helps his tribe win immunity, right? With the waves of the ocean slamming. Now, that is an awesome episode, but ultimately, I just don't think it saves the season. It's marginally better than 41. So we're going to put it at C. Still has the hourglass twist. Yuck. Mergatory. Yuck. Survivor 43. The branding is, there's the monster of Survivor. Just this amorphous, vague monster. Yet, the only thing that really changes in Survivor 43, seemingly, is the beware advantages. Just, you know, they don't have phrases that you have to say in public anymore. They just have different challenges. More of the same.
Another aspect is the Survivor Journeys or Survivor Summit, where people risk their votes at these challenges. And I just feel like that's sort of meh. It was a little better in 43, but I don't really want people losing their votes on small tribes.
Unpredictable winner, but, you know, not necessarily in a good way. Just feels like the editing was very vague. I think Survivor's going through an identity crisis through 43. I would say it's probably worse than 41. Now, I promise you, not all of the seasons are going to end up at the bottom of this tier list. So we move on to 44. This is the first season where I feel like the entire cast is really pretty good. There's some pretty good options there. The branding, the theme that's not really a theme, because we're gone with themes, right, is the castle. It's almost like a medieval castle for the creative design. That's awesome. Things that detract from the season, again, mergatory. It's like the stupidest twist that anyone could have ever come up with. We just want the merge, okay? Earning the merge, it's just another tribe switch round. No one wants that. Just call it a tribe switch if you're gonna do that. Now, they have corrected this sort of thing, so I'm not gonna talk more about it. We have characters like Carolyn, one of the best characters of the new era. People interesting like Carson. I'm remembering, I think, Franny. This was somewhat of an interesting season, continuously detracted by production decisions. So it's also a C, marginally not as good as 42. Now we're moving on to some better seasons from the new era. The seasons that helped me not give up entirely as a Survivor superfan. 45. 45 marks the season of Survivor where things change. 90-minute episodes for the very first time. The intro is back. Love, love, love the intro. We have the auction making an appearance. All of that stuff does help me to enjoy the season. We have some fantastic casting choices. Unfortunately, and this is true for most of the new era, those casting choices are not really allowed to play the game because of the structure of the game. Pre-merge, get four together, get to the merge, try to survive the initial chaos, especially with Murgatory, and then just ride it to the end. And if 45 didn't have that component to it, it would probably be way better, okay? But it is better, right? Things are a little bit more interesting. Some people use an idol correctly. Very interesting editing choice by alluding to tribal council in one of the episodes. Now, personally, I really did not like this. It sort of took the magic out of who's gonna get votes tonight, right? Like, I don't need it to be a murder mystery, but points for creativity. So for that reason, 45 is a B. 46. Now, 46 is an interesting one in the Survivor new era. I think probably has the best cast, and that's the consensus. If 45 reminded me of a little bit of Survivor old school, just based on some of those first seasons, 46 reminds me of Survivor middle school, if you want to call it that. A lot of characters who are unabashedly unafraid to be themselves, not afraid to be mean or be perceived as mean, wanting to be strategic, maybe a little bit of chaos. Q is definitely a highlight of 46. Liz is a great highlight of 46. Other people are enjoyable. The Purple Tribe, Kenzie, Tiffany. There's a lot of good in the season, and personality comes through in a way that is not forced, like the first few seasons of the new era. I would say 46 is marginally better than 45, just based on entertainment factors alone. Now, we move to Survivor 47, which I'm just gonna say, spoiler, is probably the best Survivor New Era season. We have Operation Italy. We have a great cast, a pretty strategic cast, a cast of different playing styles. Like, everyone doesn't necessarily feel the same. People are willing to backstab each other. We have the underdog feel. And finally, we have a decision to get rid of Murgatory and earn the merge. Now, some of what takes this back is the splitting of tribes. I don't know what this fascination is at 12 or 10 to split into two groups. I would rather just see the merge. Okay, I've been waiting to see a merge for 5 or 6 years now. I don't care about the small tribes. I especially don't care about them at the merge. So that's what detracts from 47, but it has the hallmarks of a great season. And unfortunately, I don't think any of the Survivor New Era seasons are super, right? They're not S's. They're not that platinum. But I will give 47 a barely A. Barely A. Because it was strategic, it was interesting, and I do rewatch Operation Italy. Like, I go back and rewatch what's worth rewatching. Not true for the other new era moments generally. What do we have left here? Oh, goody goody, Survivor 48. Survivor 48 is like a devolution back into the beginning of the new era slightly. There's no auction. I feel like there's a lot of self-indulgence in Survivor 48. It feels like Survivor 48, they tried to really make it a season that would give them an Emmy rather than make a season that was interesting for Survivor fans. And I think a lot of people, including me, just felt like the same fatigue from Survivor 44 and before. Like, just the same fatigue, but it's interesting. I do think the casting choices are pretty good for Survivor Survivor 48. So what does Survivor 48 highlight? We have a massive production design problem. This show is not interesting when it's just the new era. 3 Tribes of 6, 26 days, Fiji for the 8th time.
And 48 seems to be the greatest reminder of how the new era format misses the points of greater storytelling that the past seasons of Survivor had. They used to let the show speak for itself. They were setting up social experiments. They let the players play the game and trusted that to be interesting on its own. And Survivor 48, along with a lot of other new era seasons, doesn't trust the viewer.
We don't have people acting strategic very much. People just want to kind of be nice to each other, which is not interesting to watch at all.
And the journeys were their worst yet because people were forced to play games of chance while also not having an option to risk their vote in the process.
Eva is interesting. I wish she was on a season with more adversity in terms of people. I think that would be really interesting. As a moment, Joe and Eva just sort of falls flat. Like, on its own, it's interesting. I connected with it, but it just feels like Survivor 48 is constantly a sales pitch that I'm not buying. I'm not very interested in. I think it's, unfortunately in the D category, I would say it's better than 43. Again, that casting is more interesting, so I'm going to put it in the middle of the D category. So we have one more left. We have Survivor 49. Survivor 49 is interesting. It's kind of sitting in the middle for me in terms of the first 4 seasons versus the next 4. There's still that fatigue feeling, but I also feel like the cast is pretty great. Part of what ruins the season is it's the one before 50, and we already know what 50 is about. 50 is about the twist voting. It's for the fans. Our first returnee season in 5 years. As a result, Survivor 49 just sort of gets overshadowed. We're left with yet a 9th season in a row of a production design that doesn't provide the memeable viral moments that are interesting from the game. Tribal Council is not all that interesting in the Survivor New Era, and it should be the most interesting point of the show every episode. So 49 is just sort of lackluster in that component. There's no auction. It feels like things like the budget are slimming down or something because rewards are pretty small. I just feel like it's another season where I'm being convinced yet again, or being tried to be convinced that this game's so tough. It's the toughest game ever at 26 days. Like, newsflash, I'm never gonna believe it's better than the 39-day game. That is never, ever, 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 ever gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. I don't see that transformation that I see in the 39-day game that made me so intrigued with the show to begin with what makes it so difficult. And ultimately, the Survivor New Era, it's just not that interesting to watch people starve on a short time period. It's just not interesting. I like to see people make a society, make a team. What are the social politics? I like to see some variety in that. And Survivor 49 is just the 9th season in a row with theater kid white collar people, which I get. I'm probably one of those people, but why are there so many of them? You know what I mean? Can we get some older people? Can we get people of different socioeconomic backgrounds from different geographical regions? Can we get different cast sizes? So where do I rank it? I think it's just under 45. There. So that's my Survivor New Era tier list ranking. Might be a little bit controversial, especially for those people that identify themselves as New Era fans solely. I don't know why you're obsessed with the show, but more power to you. I would be intrigued how my rankings stack up against your rankings. So put it in the comments. How do you rank the Survivor New Era? And what did I get wrong? Or what did I get right? If you like this video or reality TV content, click subscribe for more videos. This is my chance to set the record straight from a Survivor nerd, super fan. And I want to know what you think. So leave it in the comments. This is Logan Shanes signing off. See you next time. I had no idea that my buff was riding up my head like this. I just didn't look at all. So newsflash, don't talk with your forehead if you want your Survivor buff to stay on your forehead. How has this never happened to anyone?